Hello and welcome to this episode 38 of the Sockmatician podcast. My name is Nathan Taylor, also known as Sockmatician here on YouTube, also on Ravelry, Instagram, Twitter and Periscope, for all the good Periscope does me. It is only a few days after the last episode went live, although a little bit longer than that since I last recorded, because I had some uploading issues. So although the last one only went live about 5 days ago, in keeping with my new schedule and wanting to try and make sure I podcast as regularly as I can and as frequently as possible, here I am with this next one. Today is Friday. It's Friday the 27th of January, and this episode, well, I mulled long and hard on what to call it. I mulled whether to call it Knitastrophe, Keep Calm and Knit On, Oh for the Love of Knitting, Knitting God's Help Me, all sorts of things, reasons for which will become clear later on in the episode. So, as you can see, the lighting is pretty darned awful today. It's much later in the day than I normally would podcast. It's 4:45, it's already quite, not very, but pretty dark outside. Certainly there's no sunlight anymore, so it's all electric light. Everything bouncing off my fireplace behind me, meaning that unless I sort of sit here, it's not going to be great lighting, and I can only apologise for that. I figured you're not here for the lighting, you're here for the sparkling wit and scintillating conversation. Many watchers of the last podcast episode will remember that I was saying I felt like I was coming down with something. Well, it hit me. Good Lord, did it hit me. Hot on the heels of a 12-week chest infection at the end of last year, with about 3 weeks of health and wellness, I got ill again. And I've spent most of this week, thankfully, Tuesday until today, 4 days in a row, I haven't had to go to work. So I haven't been off sick, but all the things I wanted to do in terms of not being at work kind of gone by the wayside, because I've just had to be sitting on my poorly sofa and resting up. It's been a sort of horrible chesty, fluey, sweaty, shivery, shaky, fevery, nasty thing. I went straight to the doctors as soon as I could on Tuesday, and I got some antibiotics. The doctor thought, because of my history and the pneumonia a couple of years ago, it just wasn't worth taking a risk that this should develop into something else. So even though she's aware that there's some pretty nasty flu virus going around at the moment, and that's probably what's caused this, she did give me a course of antibiotics just in case. You know, better safe than sorry in these cases. We talked a lot, actually. She said, would I be a candidate for a flu jab? Because I do seem to be getting ill quite a lot over the winter months, and with the history of pneumonia and what I do for a living as a professional singer. She went, no, you're not a candidate for NHS flu jabs. However, you can buy them over the counter from Boots Chemist, which I did not know. They do it for you. I don't think you take it home and jab yourself. That would be asking for all sorts of problems. So I haven't got any whips here. There's a reason for that. So I think that's what I'll do. As soon as I get well, I shall go and pay for a flu jab, just to hopefully ward anything off for the rest of the season. So whether or not the antibiotics are working, I don't think this is going to be a 12-weeker. I think another few days and I'll be right as rain. Thank you, though, for everyone who's posited nice, warm sentiments of care, as well as remedies and suggestions for things to boil and crush and suck and chew and all that kind of malarkey. I'll get there. So if I'm swallowing down some postnasal drip or coughing too much or making revolting noises, I hope you'll indulge me and stay for the sparkling wit and scintillating conversation rather than the extraneous bodily noises. So how have you been? It's not been long since the last time, so I haven't had a great deal of time to sort of miss you all. That said, I have missed you all. I haven't really done a great deal of knitting this week. And the reason for that is because even though I've had the time, I've been sitting on my couch going, I feel a bit sorry for myself. So I haven't got any new cast-ons to share, even though I finished the green socks last time. Let's just move straight on, shall we? Roundup-wise, that's kind of it. I genuinely... oh, goodness. I've been sitting on my sofa doing nothing. It's been horrible. I was at work on Monday, which was the day after I recorded the session, and I was feeling pretty sorry for myself. Tuesday was the worst day, and it's just as well I wasn't at work, because there's no way I got through the day. This wasn't ever intended to be an episode about my maladies and malaise, and other words beginning with Malcolm. This wasn't going to be a show about my Malcolm. It's best sometimes not to let your head get away with you, isn't it? So there's nothing to report. There's no roundup. That's it. Roundup. Bye-bye! In terms of community, it's been lovely again to catch up with so many people, and I have had time to answer questions and post on the Ravelry group. If you haven't yet joined the Ravelry group and you are a new watcher, then please do. It's Sockmatician on Ravelry, and there's a very energetic and friendly bunch of people over there who are always willing to jump in and chat and show lovely things and make lovely noises about the things that you show and all the rest of it. So please go over there and join. And if you would like to, and if you're enjoying my podcasts, then please like and subscribe here on YouTube. I would like to jump straight in. I've got a couple of podcast questions which have come up in the podcast questions thread since even since the last episode, which is really, really nice. And I'm just going to try and find them for you now. So, Waffle Dog, hello. This is Waffle Dog, this is Anne from Boston. She started knitting last May because she wanted a heavy sweater and no one sells them now. So, needs must. Absolutely. I think the best thing to do if you can't find what you want is start knitting. Look at my ghostly spectral lighting system at the moment. It's my iPad. It's not very attractive and it's not doing me any favours, but I don't know, it's quite fun, right? Anne says, I'm an obsessive researcher on any type of project. Since I didn't know how to knit, I thought I would research the different ways to knit. Interesting. I crochet. My mother refused to teach me either knitting or crochet. She sent me to an aunt to learn to crochet, but it would drive her crazy watching me with all my questions try to knit, and she banished me from knitting. I don't think I read that sentence very well. I think I might have missed out some punctuation along the way and made not much sense of it. But I've got an addled, poorly brain. There's going to be a lot of... Here's the disclaimer. Going forward, there's going to be a lot of things you're going to have to excuse me for today. I've tried throwing, Portuguese, combination and continental. I've had the most control of the yarn and needles with throwing and Portuguese. I can't figure out how to tension around fingers. I just wind up holding it in my hand and pulling after each stitch. My question is, have you seen or found a style that's for beginners that I can concentrate on? I have made a hat, scarf and 5 dishcloths of varying stitch designs throwing. I've made a tea cosy and another dishcloth Portuguese. I made one mitten combination, just the one, not a pair. I sympathise there. I've got half a mitten over there going very, very surly and uncommunicative. And a lot of swatches continental. My local LYS says pick a style and just do one, but I don't think I know enough to pick one. Most people knit the way they were taught as children and gravitate towards that style their whole life. I was just wondering what you think. Well, I don't think it's a case of picking one. I really don't. I think you will probably find, if you've learnt lots of different ways and you haven't found a particular alliance with any of them, I think you may be one of those lucky knitters who might be able to use the different techniques in different circumstances for the differing strengths that they have and the pros that they have. So, for example, I'm a self-taught knitter. I mean, I was taught to knit as a child. I don't remember what style. I think I was just a dropper and a wrapper. I don't think I was taught any kind of tensioning or anything like that. I did learn to crochet as a child, and that was with the yarn wrapping once around my finger and coming over my forefinger, so you can, and that's very, very similar to how I tension yarn, well, both hands actually, but certainly this hand, for my dominant hand. And when I'm doing double knitting, I have one in each hand, and it's tensioned pretty much the same way, wrapped around the little finger. It goes over and under different fingers, but eventually comes over the same finger at the end. But that's not how I started knitting as an adult either. The tensioning was, but I was much, I don't know, I sort of gravitated towards being a flicker. I'm definitely a flicker now, not a thrower. I don't let go, I don't move the hand, I literally just, I don't have anything to hand, but the needle kind of flicks forward as I flick like that. And the yarn just goes around the needle, and I don't move my grip at all, except to sort of pull knitting along the needle and stuff like that. What was I saying? So I think you may find that if you're looking for a particularly dense or tight gauge on something, then perhaps throwing will work for you, or Portuguese actually sometimes has really good tidy and tight gauge. I know that my Portuguese tension tends to be a little bit tighter even than my normal knitting. And if you're looking for something loose and drapey and fly away, perhaps continental might suit you. I mean, these are just the sort of the standard generalizations of what the pros are and the characteristics of different styles. Your mileage probably will vary. Of course, knitters are all unique and individual and fabulous beings that create things of their own making. So I think you may not find the same things true of the different styles that you've tried. I don't see any need to settle on just one. I really genuinely don't. And that probably goes against the advice that everybody else out there, people are probably screaming at me, throwing things at their iPads. No, Nathan, don't say that. Don't do it. I'll just duck out of the way from a few. Ooh, that was a good shot. Well done. And but I think it's not. I think you probably will find the way that suits you. That will just happen. I don't think you need to overthink it. I don't think you need to try. If you try, you'll be forcing something. You'll find yourself gravitating towards a particular method more often than not, I suspect. But I sometimes, I've done a couple of projects where I think this shawl, which I don't know why has unravelled itself, I think I got excited when I was dodging all of your iPad missiles. I think I knitted some of this because most of the reverse side rows were just pearl, and I think I went for Portuguese just because Portuguese pearl is so easy with a flick of the thumb, you know, plop, 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 all the way along, and then I change my grip and do the same one. The only reason I stopped is because I do have a bit of a discrepancy, but I've actually, that was before I got my Portuguese knitting pin. So maybe, and I think there's too much drag with the yarn around my neck, so maybe that was making it much tighter. So it'd be interesting now to see whether I could do something similar, and you'll find the ways that suit you best. I think I might have said the same thing about 4 times. I hate it when that happens. Moving on. So Miss Rena, who is lovely Lorena from Canada, has just simply said, hexa hat. Here it is. 6 sections, yes. Pride flag, 6 colours, also yes. Pride hat, question mark. Well, I mean, I can't think of anything cheerier or more beautiful than the hexa hat made in the pride colours. That would just be amazing. And you could make little, I don't know, little sections of the outer colour, maybe just like a constant short stripes of the rainbow flag going all the way around. Lots of ends to weave in, but that would be gorgeous. It really would. So yes, Lorena, I bring it on. You're the lady to do it, as we know. Now, Pom, who is pommed happy, says, "Hi Nathan, have you ever tried / had any interest in trying out illusion knitting? I learnt and loved double knitting a few years ago. I'm glad to hear it. Followed by brioche, and this is the latest technique I'm trying out. I love the fact that it's very, very easy, knits and purls only, well yes, yet gets a lot of wow from people. I suspect I can see that. I do like to show off my knitting. Well, who doesn't? My geeky self really enjoys that hidden picture as well." So for those of you who don't know what shadow knitting or illusion knitting is, it's a way of using perspective and the different textures between knits and purls, and the fact that a row of purl stitches will, now this is a row, not a column, a row of purl stitches will stand proud, whereas knit stitches lie flatter. Obviously, you know, if it's in columns, then the purl column recesses behind and the knit stitches will pop out. We're talking about rows here. And if you, with two colours, work 2 stripes of one colour, 2 stripes of another, 2 stripes of one colour, 2 stripes of the other, so you're like, it looks a bit like a striped garter stitch. However, the garter ridges are broken up. So if you look at them from the side, sort of down the length of a scarf, for example, then you'll get purl ridge, knit ditch, purl ridge, knit ditch. Not regular like that, but you can, using some very clever charting, you can put the peaks and the furrows in all the right places, so that when you look at the scarf flat on, it's just stripes. That's it. Then if you push it flat and look down the length of it, because those raised bits will hide certain areas of what comes behind them, the perspective illusion, can you see the perspective of my hands, will give the, will suddenly bring to life a picture or words or whatever it is that you've charted into it and knitted into it. It has to be done very accurately. The more even your gauge, the better. I guess you might know more about this than I do, Pom, but I guess smoother yarns would be better than fuzzier yarns for crisp definition. But it's brilliant. I've never done it. I've looked into it quite a lot, and I know that there are some amazing projects out there, like wall hangings, which from flat on look nothing at all, but you walk round to the side and then suddenly there'll be a British stamp with the Queen's profile on it, or a map of the world, or Marilyn Monroe, or the amazing pictorial things. And I was sorely tempted to give it a go. I moved past that temptation, and I can't really remember what sidetracked me. I think it was about the time I got the double knitting bug, and I've never really looked back. So I haven't tried it. I'm not one to poo-poo it, but I'm also not, because I'm not at all. But to be very, very honest, I'm not in a great hurry. I like the quirk of it, I like the fun factor of it. I'm not sure I would enjoy the knitting of it. That said, don't knock it till you've tried it. So maybe I'll give it a go soon. But for anyone who hasn't heard of it and wants to know more, then do search up illusion knitting or shadow knitting on the web. And there's lots of tutorials and things, and lots of demonstrations, and it's mind-blowing. It's really, really great stuff. My iPad's gone to sleep because I talked about that for far too long. Dietrich, who is Knit in Solitude from Germany. I've often thought about this. I don't know if I've said this before. I do hope your Ravelry name is through choice rather than by coercion. I hope you enjoy knitting in solitude rather than feeling you can only knit in solitude. Hi Nathan, in your latest episode you were talking about the very romantic tale of how you and Ben met. When you mentioned that it was while auditioning for Taboo by Boy George, well it wasn't actually, oddly, it was in the show. Ben was off sick while I was auditioning, so he was no part of me getting the job at all. And we only met on day one of rehearsals. I pricked up my ears. I asked you before in this thread about music related stuff, ABBA, and I talked at great length about ABBA, my very favourites. And it just so happened that when ABBA stopped performing, Culture Club and Boy George came onto the scene, and I was captured by him for more than one reason. Together with all the new music and stars that were out there at the beginning of the 80s, like Human League, sort of guilty pleasures for him, he says. Now I'd like to ask you the same about Boy George and Culture Club. I guess you're not as familiar with his music as you are with ABBA's, but you must have an opinion about it, which I fear might not be that enthusiastic. No, not at all. What do you think about his controversial image and the fact that he wasn't quite out at the beginning? Those were different times, but I always wondered how a man in makeup and outrageous clothes could get away with the statement, "I prefer a cup of tea to sex," his famous quote. Was he involved in the production of Taboo, where you took part? Did you get to meet him? All sorts of questions. P.S. in 1982, this is quite funny, I was still learning English at school and wasn't familiar with the term "to prefer to," so I misunderstood that quote and thought he drinks tea while having sex. And for all we know, he might. Well, growing up in the early 80s, I was about 7 or 8 years old. In 1981, I was 81, I was 8. That's not true, 7. And actually my sister was a massive Culture Club fan. And we've even got somewhere on a piece of old cine film, there's footage of my sister out in the garden, dressed as Boy George, dancing to Calm a Chameleon. It's brilliant. And so it's always been there, the musical Culture Club has always been there. I mean, Boy George is huge, and I think a great talent, I think an underestimated singer as well. Yes, he's very contentious, and I applaud him for that, I absolutely do. I think he was really at the vanguard of visibility for gay rights, and he never really pushed the whole gay thing. He absolutely pushed the whole alternative thing, and the androgyny of dressing like a girl. I mean, the story is that the reason why he's called Boy George was because people weren't sure to start with if he was a boy or a girl. He was so feminine looking that they put the word boy into his name for the avoidance of doubt. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But yeah, I was never the most enormous fan of the music specifically. I liked it. I didn't go out and buy all the albums, but I'm a fan. And it was kind of odd years later to be involved in the show. Was involved in the production? Yes, absolutely. We were in it together. He played Lee Bowery for 2 different stints, and for the second of those 2 stints, that was when I was in the show. Now, I'm not going to lie, initially, we didn't get on. How do I put this? The backstage area at the venue, which was the name of the place where Taboo was performed, was very small. There was only 2 dressing rooms, a small one which had all the girls in it, and a big one that had all the boys in it. Didn't matter whether you were Boy George or whether you were not Boy George, you were all lumped into this one dressing room that had no windows. And Boy George, lovely George, is a smoker. And he just wouldn't stop smoking in the dressing rooms. And I'm a non-smoker and a singer, and you just don't do that kind of thing. But he would smoke all the time, and I was sitting right next to him. He used to sit like here. And he and I would constantly be bickering at each other. We're both big, larger-than-life personalities, both very strong-winded, bolshy characters, very, did I say opinionated? Yeah, we're both very opinionated, and we don't suffer fools gladly, so we rubbed each other up the wrong way. However, towards the end of our time, he was only in the show for a few months, towards the end of our time together, we all went out one night, and George and I got quite drunk together, and we ended up sort of having the traditional, I think you're all right actually, kind of chat, drunk in the corner, arms around each other. Oh yeah, no, you're quite fun. And I think we put a lot of demons to rest, and started to understand each other a bit better. And in fact, if you read George's biography, which I think it's the second one is called Take It Like a Man, I believe. It's anyway the bit where he talks about his time on Taboo. He does mention me, and it's actually something like, he says, and of course I forgot to clear off the last podcast episode and ran out of storage space. I was saying, so in George's biography, he refers to me, I can't remember the exact wording, but he says, Union Rep Nathan could be a bit of a pain, but was actually quite sweet. Now I don't mind that at all, because it entirely encapsulates our friendship in one easy sentence, that we didn't like each other to start with. The dig is that he was calling me the Union Rep because I was constantly on his case about smoking. I wasn't a Union Rep at all, so that's a little dig there. But it was actually quite sweet. We turned it around at the end. And we've seen each other loads. We often bump into each other. We've got a lot of mutual friends at various parties and things, and it's always really nice to see him. So I would now consider George to be a friend. Yes, that's that part of the conversation. And question, that's what I meant. I told you, adult head and dealing with technology as well. And then you say, what do you think about his controversial image? Well, it was different times. I'm proud of him for flying that flag and flying it so strong and loud and proud. I think it must have been much more difficult back then than it would be for someone like him now. You have stars like Adam Lambert, who wears a lot of makeup and is very extravagant, and you have comedians like Eddie Izzard, who is, and the artist Grayson Perry. You know, all of these people have this sort of gender ambiguity in their image, not necessarily about who they are as people, but in their image. And I think it's widely accepted now. It certainly wasn't at the time, and I think he played a good game, and I think he played a good game in terms of that quote that you mentioned, I'd rather have a cup of tea. What that did, it took the sting out of the tale. Back then, you were okay if you were gay, as long as you weren't known to be sexually gay. If you weren't sexually aggressive, or if people didn't have to think about the sex act. And I think that's still, to a certain extent, true today. People like their homos to be benign, and I think that's what George was doing. And I think he, quite rightly, was protecting himself by saying something like that. He didn't put things out there too graphically. Neither should he have done. No one else's business. And I think that's also what he meant when he said it. So I think George is brilliant. I genuinely do. I've grown very, very fond of him over the years, and very proud that he exists in the LGBT world, and proud that he exists in my world too. So there you go. Moving on. Sweet P16, whose name is, I forget, is Eva from Luxembourg. Hello, Eva. Hello, Eva. I've been binge watching your podcast over the last few weeks. Thank you. Being ill with the flu over Christmas gave me lots of time to do so. Apologies, sympathy. And from the first moment, I've been captivated by that plate that hangs above your left shoulder, seen from our side, which is my right shoulder, seen above your TV. You mean this one. In the Christmas episode, it was seen closer up and made me fall in love with it even more. Is it by a known artist? Well, Eva, I thought I'd talked about it before, but maybe it's in an episode that you haven't seen yet. It's Pool Pottery, P-O-O-L-E, and it's called The Sun. I've got Ben collects pool pottery for the planets. We've got I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. we've got 8 of the 9 planets, and we've got the Sun, and we've got, because Pluto did exist at the time, they were created in the year 2000 before Pluto was downgraded, and above that one is a plate called the Sun in Eclipse as well. So there's a bit of a theme going on. They're commercially available. They are limited edition, so I think they're harder to find now. They will become quite collectible, and hopefully worth something. Who knows? But they're very lovely, lovely colours, and they're nice and warm. That one, it feels just warm and beautiful. It's got lots of speckles in it. It really does look like the sun is kind of bursting out of its energy forces. No sense and structure. Gone. And Sindlu, finally, who is Cindy Lewis, perhaps? I don't know. Somewhere in America, it doesn't say on your Ravelry page. Says, Nathan, I remember you making a jumper late last year. Well, you're right, I did. Although I don't remember which podcast you showed it to us. Neither do I. How has that jumper worked out for you? Has it become a useful part of your wardrobe, Cindy in the US? Well, Cindy in the US, yes, it's the Twilight Zone jumper by Dario... Sorry, Dario, mind went blank. Dario Tubiano, who is Rosso Cardinale on Instagram and I believe on Ravelry as well. And it has worked out very, very nicely. I still haven't got round to just tacking down it's got the roll neck jumper, the roll neck top, and I want to tack it down so that it doesn't ride up all the time, which it seems to. Other than that, I wear it quite a lot. It's incredibly warm. It's done in super chunky, and it is alpaca, so it's incredibly warm. So I have to be quite sparing with where and when I wear it. And it's kind of weird to have that kind of roll neck with this kind of facial adornment. So I've been wearing it a little bit less recently, but it certainly has become a very useful part of my wardrobe. And I do want to have more knitted items in my wardrobe. That's definitely the plan. I'm putting this face for reasons you'll find out about later. So that's it from podcast questions. Thank you very much. I haven't had any chance really to watch any podcast episodes since I last broadcast, apart from a little bit of Dan and Kay. Now, I know it's been, I know Dan's announced it on the podcast. He's got a little trip to hospital coming up. So I absolutely wish you both, well, and Brian as well, of course, all the love in the world. And I have no doubt, Dan, that you'll sail through your procedure and you will be running on your fog-along out the other side in no time at all. And in other pod love news, after mentioning Andrew and Andrea of Fruity Knitting last time, somebody who watches this podcast and also watches Fruity Knitting podcast got in touch with them and said that I'd been saying some nice things about them. And Andrea got in touch with me. She contacted me out of the blue, which was lovely. And I believe, I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag, that they are planning to come to Edinburgh for the Yarn Festival in March. So with a bit of luck, we'll get a chance to meet up in person, which will be very, very nice. Did you see how I nearly went to break all my fingers, snap all my fingers, and I stopped myself before any of the clicking happened? I am learning. I do learn. I'm just going to grab a little glug of water from my stainless steel drinking straw. Ooh, elixir of life. Now, in other community news, 2 episodes ago, you may remember that I was talking about the What's Tat section and why it hadn't been around. I'm going to have to sort of do this while I'm talking. Why it hadn't been around for such a long time. And it's because I couldn't remember which ones I'd done and which ones I hadn't. Let me just search my messages for the one I'm looking for. Search. And I sort of jokingly said, if anybody knows... Oh. My messages don't seem to have... Oh, maybe I've spelled that wrong. If anyone knows which ones I've spoken about and which ones I haven't, then let me know. What I didn't expect was for someone to go through the entire list of podcast episodes to find out for me. So Ms. Lacey, who's Christine, she got back to me and she said that there's lots of... We talked about tattoos last time, and on the episode last week, and I said that I would be talking about something else on the same subject later on. I forgot. But it was all this. I had everything set up because there will be an episode of What's Tat, a section for What's Tat coming up. But Christine has gone through, and apparently it took her about 7 hours. She had recently binge watched quite a lot of the podcasts, so she kind of knew where in the episode she was looking, but she sat down and she spent about 7 hours making a list for me of what I have done. I know. So it seems not as many as I thought. Let me count them up. I've done, of the 74 tattoos that are on my left arm, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus 9 is 14. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Oh, actually 30, because I did 31 twice. I had repeated myself on antimony. I apologise for that. The most recent one as well. So I've done 30, which means there's still 44 to go. I don't see how that can be possible. I look at my arm and go, I'm sure I've done all these. But I'm going to assume that this is the definitive list. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a thread on the Ravelry group called What's Tat. And I'm going to give a list of all the ones that I've done so far, and I will add to it as I do others. All right? So you can refer back to that. I might put in some episode listings as well if people want to go back to the ones and find... So, say, for example, I talked about Thunderbird tracks in episode 9, according to Christine. Thank you so much. Christine, honestly, above and beyond, I'm really, really grateful. And I know that other people who are fans of What's Tat will also be very grateful to you for allowing me to reinstate it, which I'm about to do now. So without further ado, let's move on into your favourite and mine, What's Tat? Voice shot. Ill. This episode of What's Tat will require the disrobement. Taking off this shirt so I can actually get to... Possibly while I'm here, I should say what I'm wearing. For those of you who don't know, this is the geology shawl by Very Busy Monkey. It's all a bit screwed up here, but very nice. Lacy shawl. It's in layers. It's one skein. This is one skein of fingering weight alpaca, 100% pure alpaca. There you go. And so here we are into What's Tat. Today, where is it? We've lost it. I found it. When they say you know it like the back of your hand, well, I don't know it like my own arm. Today, we're going to be talking about this chap here. Now, this 8-pointed octagonal unicursive scar. It's not a scar. I mean, it is a scar because it's a tattoo. It's a star, ladies and gentlemen. It's a star. 8-pointed unicursive star. Is called Auseklis. Auseklis. And it's a Latvian symbol. And it's got quite a sort of not checkered heritage at all, but a really interesting heritage. Let me find out some stuff for you. Alcestis was a Latvian god and the personification of the celestial body Venus. He's the third most popular deity in Latvian mythology after Sole and Menes, but is almost exclusively mentioned in folk songs. He's closely associated with Menes, who's the moon. They are both sons of God, Dieva Deli, I don't know how to pronounce Latvian, I'm afraid, and are thus confused with each other and with other male deities. So even though he's kind of to do with the moon, and he's to do with basically he's a god, and the name Alcestis seems to come from aus, meaning dawn, and he's called the morning star. Now, this particular symbol is called the morning star. See it there? And it's complicated to draw, but you can draw it, and should, symbologically speaking, draw it unicursively, which means not taking the pen off the paper at all. As a symbol, Alcestis is also the name of the eight-pointed star. It is also known as one of the crosses of Lietuvens, a malevolent spirit. Now, bear with me. The other cross of Lietuvens is the pentagram, which symbolises Venus in other cultures, suggesting that both signs might have originally been symbols of Alcestis. Modernly, it's an odd word, modernly, the pentagram is sometimes seen as a symbol of evil. However, originally both signs were used for protection from evil and are named after Lietuvens because they were used to ward it off. So they are the crosses of Lietuvens because they were there to ward away from it. So it's about protection. It's a general symbol of protection. And also meaning the dawn and where night turns into day. It has all those different connotations added into it as well. And I've also got here, apparently the term Alcestis is derived from the Germanic aus, meaning east, and the Latvian sekla, meaning seed or semen. The meaning can be understood as the rising sun, the rising star, or rising moon. Alcestis was the name of an ancient pagan deity representing the appearance of new life. In human reproduction, it has, until relatively recently, been more or less universally believed that only the man seed produced life, and consequently, Alcestis was a male deity. So most fertility symbols seem to be, certainly in Western cultures, seem to be female in pagan kind of stylings, but Alcestis, as the giver of life, was male. So there you go. Have I got any more to say on that subject? Oh yeah, also, here we go. In the 1980s, the octagram, because it is an octagram, became the symbol of the third Latvian national awakening. Now this was quite an important part of Latvia's culture. And if only I'd really known more about this at the time, I would have been able to, when I was in Latvia, I would have been like, look. And it was in 1980 to, in the 1980s, the third awakening to the movement that led to the restoration of Latvia's independence from Russia in the Singing Revolution of 1987 to 1991. The Singing Revolution was basically people who protested by singing songs, and it was peaceful and peace-loving and beautiful, and helped Latvia to get its independence from its oppressors. So I'm really pleased that those connotations are tied up with the symbol that I put on my arm for the sake of the new dawn and the sense of protection. So all of that. Ooh, someone's yelling outside. I don't know if you heard that. You probably did. So there you go. That's what's tat. Now, I'm reversing things a little bit today because this is, after all, a knitting podcast, and I do want to talk about some knitting related stuff. I've been a busy boy recently in terms of trying to put the Sockmatician stuff out there and get better at getting lots of classes and applying for things and submitting proposals and all kinds of things, and do my designing. The Alliel socks and hat are now firmly with Tech Edit, and should be back with me very shortly. So if anyone's waiting on those, that'll be lovely, and you can get those very soon, I hope. I believe that Isabel, who was my test knitter, who is I'm a Whale, I don't know if that's I'm a Whale, I'm not quite sure how you would want to pronounce it. Isabel is French, and it's Imawale. Imawale. Isabel, I'm afraid I don't know. Test knit the socks for me. And she also has let me know via the Ravelry group that there's February is the month of slip stitches for the Sock Knitters Anonymous group. So I shall be letting them know about it in case any of them would like to give it a go. So that's that, and I've had a couple of people approach me about some exciting things recently, and I've also been putting some feelers out myself for some other exciting things, but unfortunately I can't talk about any of them yet. I hate it when people do that, I'm sorry about that, but it's kind of on my mind, and I just wanted to sort of put it out there to make it a little bit more tangible, so that hopefully that now that YouTube knows about it, it must be about to happen, right? It's going to happen, surely. That was the plan. So yeah, I'm moving things around on this podcast. I'm going to do stash enhancement later because I've got some nice stash enhancement things to talk about. And I don't really have any whips or FOs to show you. I could go over there and I could get the two scarves, the Piano number 3 and the Il scarf. There hasn't been any progress made on either of them. Why not? My podcast, my rules. Hang on a sec. The other one, Piano number 3 is actually in another room. I'm not going to go and get it. But I will get the Il scarf out to show you where we are with that. Here it is. Here's some knitting on a knitting podcast, folks. Every time I will be knitting this evening. I know I'll be working on this evening. I love it so much. I love how it's all coming together. I love how this pattern is just kind of very Aztec. It looks so kind of ancient South American, where actually it's Italy from the 16th century. It's just extraordinary. So here are, just trying to get some light on it. Here are the colours. And here are the patterns. So these, for those of you who may not remember, this all comes from an archive I found online, or somebody sent to me online, of 16th century Italian patterns put together by Alessandro Paganini. Alessandro Paganino. So I've called this and in a book called Ilberato. So I've called this the Ilberato scarf because I've collected together all of the patterns from the book that would lend themselves to this kind of orientation, and it's just beautiful. The yarn, it's 4 colours of yarn, and here they are. These are fluff everywhere. Clearly, not pulled this out of the bag for a while. Beautiful. There's this Uluru, I think that one's called. Damson. Something else. And Dabbling Duck. I'm such an awful creature. Oh look, here's the ball bands. English Damson is the purple one, Dabbling Duck is the blue one, and Jaipur is the yellow. So that's sort of Indian spices, turmeric and all that kind of stuff. Lovely. Beautiful, beautiful yarns from Larissa of Travel Knitter. There's her logo, and it's all done in BFL Super Sock. So it's 75% superwash British Blueface Leicester and 25% nylon. You get 425 meters to 100 grams. So it's quite a fine fingering weight, and hand dyed in East London in Walthamstow. I love it. I really, really love it. It's not getting much longer, but I I can actually talk about some work on this scarf. I may not have knitted any stitches on this week, but what I have done is I've done a lot more work on the chart. As you can imagine, because each of the sections, none of it repeats. I mean, there are repeats within the sections, but none of the sections themselves repeat. The chart for this is pretty epic. And what I have done, I like to put numbers on my charts. I don't know if I've got anything that I can show you to hand. I don't think I have. I like to put numbers on my charts so that you don't have to count the number of squares. You don't have to constantly go, so how many squares of red do I do before I do the blue? 13. So when you're following a chart, in the first square of a new colour, I put a little number. And in that case, that number would be 13, because it will tell you that that block of colour is 13 stitches, or pairs of stitches for double knitting. And then as soon as you next change colour, I would then put the number again in the first stitch of the new colour. And I do that for all my charts. I think for me, it makes knitting a lot more fun because I can glance at the chart rather than having to squint and check and count. So I do that for everyone else, and I know a lot of people find that helpful too. It's a huge chart, and I have spent 2 entire days of my poorly time on the sofa putting numbers into little boxes, counting. And even if it's, some of it's very, very regular, like this, where it's just basically 1s, 2s, and 2s. 1s, 2s, 3s, and 5s maybe. All of that whole pattern's made of 1s, 2s, 3s, and 5s. I'm going 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's arduous. But it does mean I can talk here on my knitting podcast about doing some work on this knitting pattern, even though I haven't actually knitted a damn stitch. There you go. That's my whips. Now, you might be asking yourself, hang on, how can he not have any whips? I know that last time we saw him, he was wearing his green pond hopper socks from Easy Knitter, easyknits.co.uk, and so they're not a whip anymore. But wasn't he also about 6 inches into a Fair Isle tank top? He surely can't have finished that in the time. He's just said he hasn't done much knitting. God. Oh, I don't know how to tell you. Last night, and this is why this episode is called Knitastrophe. Last night, I got out the Nani vest, as it's called. I call it a tank top. But the Nani River vest by Betts Lampers. Lovely pattern. The kit that I bought in Edinburgh last year and was desperately hoping to have finished to wear in Edinburgh this year. Well, that's not going to happen. I started work on it, and I have worked my way. I don't want to show too much. I'll keep it moving so you can't see anything. But basically, the whole chart is this, and I've worked my way all the way up to the top. And I'd started at the bottom again, and I'd done 7 rows of the bottom. I was just about to change the foreground colour again to the very lightest one, and I realised that 7 rows earlier, when I got from the top of the chart back down to the bottom, what I should have done is changed the background colour. Now there's 300 and something stitches per round on this, and 7 rows of that is over 2,000 stitches. Ben was saying, well, can't you just leave it? Can't you just change colour now? And I can't. The reason why I can't is because that's the background colour that I continued using, and that's the background colour I should have been in by that point. They're very, very different. I would have considered it if it had just been something that was much closer in colour. That's a beard hair, just pulling it off my yarn. I'm sure all of my knitting has got like 0.5% human DNA in it these days. So, I took it off the needles in order to start ripping back, and I was really upset. Big whoop, I can hear you say. Poor baby, I can hear you say. Pulling out a whole 7 rows of Fair Isle. 2,000 stitches. Never mind, I've done much more than that. Well, when I got off the needles, I thought to myself, well, here's a good opportunity to measure it and find out whether my calculations for size are correct. So I don't know if you remember me talking about this before, but it comes in, it's written for 4 sizes, I believe, 39-inch waist, chest, 42, 45 and 48, so 3-inch increments. And I'm about a 40, so I probably should have, I was thinking I would start knitting the 42, but I looked at my gauge at the beginning and my gauge was off. My gauge was looser. So I thought, well, what I'll do, if I want the 42-inch or something a bit bigger than, maybe a little bit smaller than 42, but I can knit the smaller size at my looser gauge, and I'll probably get something that turns out about right. And I did the maths and it all seemed to work. I promise I did the maths. Now, I don't think I got anything wrong. I just think as I've relaxed into getting better at Fair Isle knitting, and I'm looking down because it's on the floor, I'll pick it up in a minute, my gauge has loosened a lot. So even though the cuff around the waist is knit on smaller needles, the body is knit on 3.25, they're not mil needles, so that's not massive. And it's Jameson Spindrift, so it's really, really fine yarn. My gauge is so catastrophically off now that the part of the tank top that I'm now knitting, rather than having 32 stitches per 4-inch section, I've only got 27. That 5-stitch discrepancy over sort of a 40-inch circumference, it's huge. I didn't know because the needles aren't that long, so it's been slightly bunched up on the needles. Measuring across the top, a little bit down from the stitches that have just come off the needles because they're going to splay a bit, but measuring across the top, my beautiful Fair Isle jumper, you see how it's just getting wider and wider, is 46 inches. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what to do. I'll put it on for you. I'll put it around under my underarms, which would be sort of the widest point of my chest. And whereas this is perfect, this is enormous. Look, that's not stretching it, that's just kind of where it wants to be. It drowns me, it absolutely drowns me. Whereas this section fits quite snugly. I've just got looser and looser, and I have no idea. So all of this work has to go. Gosh, it's so upsetting. I've worked on this a lot over the last month. It was my January the 2nd cast on, and it's only a month, I know that, but I've been really, really happy with how it's been coming together. Really, genuinely happy. And I love the fabric that it's making. I love the colours, I love the design. I'm so happy with my tension. I'm so happy with everything about it, but it's enormous. It's not human size, and also it's getting bigger. I mean, I don't know what to do about that. Clearly there's no hope for this. So it's going to have to go. The problem is, of course, It's the grippiest yarn in the world. There's a lot to unravel. I don't know if it will unravel and be fit to be used again. One of the other problems is that I've been spit splicing the colours together as I go. Every time I change colour, I've been spit splicing. So unless I'm really, really careful as I unravel it and pay careful attention to the pattern and cut it at the right sections and then sort of put the colours back with balls of the same colour so I know what's what, I can't just unravel it and knit it again, because obviously I've just I've used way too much of each colour, and some of the colours are so similar to each other. I won't, if I just do it all in one go, I won't know. Like, I won't be able to see where they change colour. I mean, it's a catastrophe. I have to somehow, this is what gets me, somehow I have to do 6 inches from the circumference of this. I want a 40-inch top. I've got a 46-inch top. That's 3 inches from the front and 3 inches from the back. Measuring the section, that's nearly 2 whole pattern repeats. Let me show you what that looks like on the damn thing. 2 whole pattern repeats, that's kind of from there to there. That's how much I've got to lose in terms of size. I don't know what to do. I genuinely am at a loss, because I don't think needle size is going to be enough. It's only knit on 3.25 needles as it is, and going down to what, 1.5 or something, it's just not going to make that much difference. So anyone who's out there, Andrea from Fruity Knitting, if you come back to this podcast ever and you watch this, please, or anyone else who considers themselves to be a Fair Isle expert, I'd love some input. I'd love to know what you think I could be doing that makes me so far off gauge. I knit with both yarns in my right hand, so the tension between the two is pretty good. It's fairly standard. Do I have to start pulling tight on every single stitch before, because that's not going to be a very fun or healthy way to knit long term? Do I mean, I could cut 2 repeats out and carry on at my current gauge and obviously start again, but I could cut 2 repeats out of the pattern in terms of stitch count. But then when I get to the bits that I don't understand, which I don't understand yet, I mean, I just haven't done them, which are the steeks for the neck V and for the armholes, all the shaping's going to be off, all of the row counts and everything's going to be off for what the pattern is. And basically I'll be busking the pattern using a chart from the Nani River. There's a lot to this knitting malarkey, and I really genuinely didn't think I just dived in blindly on this one. I thought I'd done a lot of research, and I made a swatch. I counted my gauge. My gauge has just changed so much, and I'm not a loose knitter, so I'm genuinely at a loss. I don't want that to be it for the Nani River. I really want it. I don't know if I can salvage the yarn. I don't know if there'll be enough to start again if I can't salvage what I've got. So that might be it. Anyway, send me, please don't approach this, even with the best of intentions, unless you really know what you're talking about. Do you know what I mean? Can I ask that in good faith? If you genuinely know what you're talking about when it comes to Fair Isle and garment sizing and gauge and all this kind of stuff, if you really do know, then I'd love to hear from you. But if I just get bombarded with the kindest and well-meant of people saying, well, you can try this, try this. I'll get swamped and I won't know what to do. So please don't, unless you really can help. Because if you can help, I'll be very grateful. I need to move on. I can't bear it. I can't bear talking about it anymore. It's so beautiful and so useless. There we are. It's only knitting, isn't it? We do it for fun, right? We do it because it makes us happy. Yeah, that's right. So let's move on. There's no whips to show, obviously. Let's move on into much, much nicer territory in terms of stash enhancement, okay? Now, the lovely David from the Dog Dare podcast in North Carolina has sent me a gift. It was a Christmas present, and it's not knitting related at all, but because he's knitting related, I thought I'd share it with you on here. I don't know how he did this. This present was being held for me in a shop literally just down the road. I don't know how he figured this out, whether it's just coincidence, whether he found them out because he knew where I lived, I don't know. But literally half a mile down the road. A mile maybe. And I got a notification that someone had tried to deliver a parcel to me just before Christmas, and I wasn't able to do anything about it. I didn't know what it was, and I genuinely hadn't got a chance. Well, David then contacted me and said, just found out that the shop is holding a parcel for you. I was like, right, now I know at least what it is, who it's come from. And finally, I got a chance this week, on my poorly day, to go and collect it. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a pair of egg cups with little bearded men on them. So can you imagine if you put, let's try and make this work. If you put a big egg in the egg cup, it'll look like, it's not going to work at all, is it? Because it's supposed to be a bald egg in it, because he's already got eyes, but it'll look like a man's bald head. Anyway, these eggs, and it says on the box, I am a gentleman of taste, says the beard on my face. Yes, David, yes. So to all you beard detractors out there, I am a gentleman of taste, says the beard on my face. Quite right too. David, you're very kind. You're a very, very sweet man. Thank you so much. I love them. I really, really love them. They're very cute. I love beards. What's not to love? So that was that. That was the first bit. And there was another thing in the parcel as well, which is a little cuddly fox. I don't have him to hand at the moment. He's very random and very eccentric. And thank you very much. It made me think, because it was two separate parcels, I made me think that the fox might not have been for me. The beard egg cups clearly were, but the rest of it might not be. I'm hoping, really, really hoping that I haven't stolen someone else's. But I didn't steal it. I mean, they handed it to me in the bag. It was so funny. When I went into the shop, I said, I believe you might be holding a parcel for me. They went, really? I was like, oh, that's not a good sign. I said, yeah, David from North Carolina sent, I don't know if he sent it or whether it was ordered from the shop here. Oh, I don't know. She went out the back, had a look, nothing. Made a phone call, went, hang on. I could hear rummaging sounds in the stockroom. Apparently been there for so long, it seems, that it had been sort of covered up with all sorts of other things. She really had to go buried under all kinds of other stuff. So she eventually got the bag and handed it to me. So I didn't steal the fox, I promise. I still don't know from David whether the fox was meant for me or not. I feel kind of bad. If it wasn't meant for me, I'm taking it back. I promise I will. I will, because I'm a nice person. The other piece of stash enhancement, I'll put this back on. I like wearing it. The other piece of stash enhancement comes from Lorena, who is Miss Rena on Ravelry. And you're going to love this. You genuinely are going to love this as much as I do, I think. She contacted me a while ago. Now, Lorena has recently become obsessed with dyeing yarn. and she dyes purely for her own pleasure and amusement. I think she has got plans to set up an Etsy shop at some point in the future, and if she does, I'll keep you posted. But she hasn't done so yet, and it really is just for her own pleasure. She enjoys doing it. And she's a recent convert to the podcast and a recent watcher, and she, knowing my love of rainbows and the love of the pride flag, the 6 rainbow striped pride flag, 6 striped rainbow pride flag, I don't know, she wanted to send me something. Now, she doesn't use acid dyes, she uses food colouring. From looking at her yarns and the colours on her project pages, I would say without a doubt, food colouring in the US, she's from Canada, but it's okay, it's from the Northern American continent, is very different from food colouring in this country. We don't get shades like that at all. However, listen, she sent me a little parcel. She asked if she could, and I said, well, you don't have to, but I certainly, if it's something that would make you happy, it will definitely make me happy. And the parcel arrived yesterday. Not 1, not 2, but 3 skeins of yarn. 3 skeins of yarn. And I need to share each and every one of them with you. I'll read a little bit of the letter that Lorena sent to me, because it's very cute. It says, I hope you enjoy knitting these yarns as much as I have enjoyed dyeing them for you. I know I will. I could not decide which of my various methods to use when dyeing the yarn, so I've done 3 of them for you. And I'll tell you about the details in a minute. As I was dyeing the yarn, oh yeah, now I'm a really bad person. You know this about me. I am a really bad person. One of the beautiful, and it is beautiful, skeins of yarn that Lorena has sent to me is speckled yarn. And quite right, speckles are very in, or so hot right now, as Stephen West would say. She says, as I was dyeing the yarn, I was watching past podcasts in an attempt to get caught up. After finishing the speckled yarn, I got to one where I heard you say you're not a big fan of sprinkles. It's true, it's true. However, and there is a caveat to that, there genuinely is a caveat to that, I think sometimes it really works. What I don't like is where the speckles don't really pay any attention to the colours that are in use elsewhere in the yarn, and it just looks like someone dropped a load of the wrong stuff in, which I'm sure in some cases is how people design their colourways, entirely by mistake. And I'm okay with that, it's just not really for me. I like it when there's been thought gone into it. Now, Lorena's special speckled yarn actually is very, very lovely. And I genuinely mean that. I'm not backtracking at all. The yarn as well, there's precedent for this. The yarn that Kay Jones from Bakery Bears podcast dyed for me, gave to me, she dyed it herself and gave to me when I went up to visit them, also has speckles on it, but the speckles are really judiciously chosen and really match beautifully with the feel of the rest of the yarn, and it works really, really nicely, and I've said that before, so you know I'm not lying. Here is Lorena's yarn. Oh, you're not going to see it in this light. Look at that. A lot of it is just natural colour. It's creamier than it's showing up on screen, that's probably about right. And it's got these speckles of lots and lots of different colours. There's greens, pinks, reds, blues, oranges, maybe some yellow in there as well. I think there's yellow. Some of it coming together in sort of bolder chunks, but it's quite subtle, it's quite uniform and quite subtle. I don't mind this at all. That's an awful thing to say about someone's work. I don't mind it. No, I really like it, I do. So let me tell you what she says about it anyway, having found out that she just dyed me some speckled yarn and I don't like speckles. I do, I promise I do. But I decided to send you the yarn anyway, along with 2 choices. Accept my challenge and knit with it. Sorry, I get really wheezy when I laugh. Or gift it to someone at your next craft and cake meeting, but you can only do this if you promise to straighten the books on your top shelf. If I see them every podcast, all leaning to the side, and I'm sad for the book bindings. I read this to Ben. They're his books. They're his photo albums, in fact. And I don't know if you can see, he's not really in shot today, but he has straightened them up. Lorena, that's just for you. That is entirely your doing. You have saved, I can't get that. You've saved Ben's photo album's book bindings. And I'm not going to give the yarn away. I've already told you this in a message, but I'll tell everybody. My plan for this, I think this would be amazing as the lighter colour in a 2-colour brioche project. So with a different coloured solid, or even a variegated solid of darker, brighter, richer colours, and this is the lighter one. I think that'd be amazing. I genuinely do like it. I really, really do. But now on to the main event. The other 2 yarns. Oh, what does it say here? Oh no, I should say. This is brilliant. I didn't read out the stuff that's on the little tag that comes with it. Miss Rena's Spectacularly Speckled Yarn. Yes. Colourway, Cake Sprinkles. It really is, isn't it? It looks just like cake sprinkles. The base is opal bare fingering, 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon. They are all that, so I'm not going to say that again. And 100 grams gives you 465 yards. It's probably about 400 metres, 420 metres maybe. It's really, really high twist. It's superwash. It's got that sort of superwash treated feel to it. And I know it's been through various... Look. The speckles are really, really nice. I think because they're all so different, and they're not all sort of like just browns and blacks and, you know, on a nice bright colour. They don't look like a mistake. They look like they've been placed there by a judicious hand. She says on the back, in her handwriting, this colourway also gives away the secret of how it is dyed. The speckles of colour are indeed created using cake sprinkles. So you can have your cake and knit with it too. Isn't that brilliant? And I know she's wet the dye and put on actual cake sprinkles and then baked the colours into the dye to hold them there. I do love the fact that these, look at that, some of these colours are really bold. That it's actually been, it's called cake sprinkles, and that's exactly what it is. So Lorena, thank you. I love that. But as I say, now on to the other 2. Now in the skein, they look very similar. I can show them to you both together. Here you go. Oh my goodness. Dear Judy, I love these. And this lighting state is not going to do them justice. Let's just see if I can show you up close and personal. The colours on these are so rich. They're so saturated, much, much more so than you're seeing here. I can't get it to look right anywhere, but they are, imagine this but sort of on speed. I mean, just beautiful, 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 beautiful. Miss Rena's vivaciously variegated yarn. Colourway, Rainbow Bright, quite right too. Same base as the other one. The colours of the rainbow flag have been hand painted onto this yarn. Because dye has a mind of its own, they've also mingled where they meet to create something new and wonderful. Get this. Much like how combining all the different types of people in the world can create a new and wonderful community. Well, I find that very moving. I find that particularly moving at the moment, where there's divisiveness and division happening all around the world. How amazing to feel that these colours can represent what people can do when they come together. They can create something new and wonderful. Enough said about that, but I love this yarn. I haven't opened up the skein yet. Let me do that so we can see a little bit about what's going on. I mean, there's no way of telling. I mean, I don't know what her process is, but let me see one strand. So that goes from purple, that goes from red to blue there, it goes through purple, but I think, oh goodness, it's really short. This is going to be amazing. So these are not long strips of a colourway that will give you like half a round. Look at that. Oh, it's just beautiful. So it's going from green. Oh, actually what I've done there is I've managed to find the very beginning of it. So it starts off in that turquoisey blue, goes through green, into yellow, to orange, into red, into purple, and back to the blue there. So that seems to be about the colour repeat there. Now, that might be a row of a sock, a round of a sock. These colours could pool together astonishingly well and come up with something amazing, or they could just mingle. I mean, it's so gorgeous. Look at it. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I might just want to wear it like this. I might just tie it onto my face and wear it like that forever. No, that would be a shame. I can't wait to knit with it. When I saw these in the bag, and the other one as well is just as beautiful, I just couldn't stop staring at them. I couldn't stop looking. The colours are so beautiful. Just look at how vibrant they are. Stunning. Lorena, absolutely stunning. I can't thank you enough. Hang on. Just wrap it around a couple more times. Pop one through the other. I might have done that a bit tight. Hang on. There we go. It's so gorgeous, and I cannot wait to knit with it. It may be my next pair of socks cast on. I think there's a very good chance that it will be. So there we are, back in the skein. Beautiful, beautiful. There we are, that's that one. And this one, it's the same colours. You might notice that the yarn's a bit wiggly. What could that mean? This is Miss Rena's perfectly imperfect self-striping yarn. The colourway, Labour of Love. The base is the same, and it says here, start at the red end for a full stripe. Okay, so there'll be a red end. I need to find the red end. Each 100 gram skein is first knit into a giant I-cord. The I-cord is segmented onto 2-foot sections, then put into a series of 6 mason blah 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 blah. The mason jars are filled with the rainbow flag colours, and the dye is heat set on the stove. The I-cord construction results in a heathered look to the yarn. Because the colour likes to travel when dyeing, resulting in slightly different lengths of stripes, because there is a bit of a gradient on the colours, this self-striping yarn is perfectly imperfect. Now, look at that. It's so beautiful. Again, the colours are gorgeous, and rather, it does have a heathered aspect to it. You can't really see. Actually, maybe you can see on this blue section here, it's quite tonal. Lots of variegation within that area, because of course if it was, I guess putting it into an I-cord first of all means that you can get a longer piece of length of yarn in a shorter space, if that makes sense, so you can dye it that way. I said, do you knit it into an I-cord first? And she told me yes. She's got a little machine that does it, but it still takes for a 100 gram skein, it takes about 2 hours. So the reason why this colourway is called Labour of Love, because it has to be. You have to want to do it, because she puts a lot of work and a lot of time into this. And I just don't feel worthy of such a gift. I genuinely don't. So there's not only that, but then all the dyeing and the time and Lorena, I'm so touched. I'm so touched that you wanted to send me these, and I cannot tell you how much I love them. I really, really love these colours. They're so bright and so beautiful. And I don't know which I like the best, the variegated or the self-striping. Be interesting to see how they knit up. Oh, I can't wait. I really can't wait. I'm moved today by lots of things. So I know Lorena is, let's put the three together, you can see the fruits of her labours all looking fabulous there. It's just brilliant. Lorena's got a lot of stuff on the go at the moment in her world, meaning that she's not necessarily going to be opening the Etsy store anytime soon. But whether or not, Lorena, whether or not you continue dyeing just for fun and for pleasure, or whether you decide to start selling, let me tell you right now, it's not just your own pleasure. It's really not. Thank you. Going back to what I was saying a couple of episodes ago about the skills we have are worth something. There's when people talk about handmade gifts costing too much. It's like, no, they don't. They cost a lot. It's because they're worth a lot. This is worth an enormous amount of somebody's time and skill and craft and talent and experience. And I do not take a gift like this lightly. I really don't. Particularly as this is not an advert. This is genuinely not an advert. She's got nothing to sell. Lorena does have a blog. The link is here, The Impatient Dyer. The link is coming up on screen now. So if you do want to check her out, and I've read some of her posts so far, I haven't got through very many just yet, but she has a very fun way of words. I like the way her brain works. I suspect it's probably quite similar to mine in lots of ways, and check it out. Go over to the blog, give her some readership views, and contact her to tell her how beautiful you think these things are, because I know I do, and I consider myself to be one lucky podcaster to be in possession of these. I have partly thought about, the brioche thing, but I think that would be such a shame to waste this on its own. So I think I'll put another beautiful colour with this for a brioche project, and I will leave these. They're just going to be socks. They only want to be socks. They just want to be socks to be worn by me, and I will love them. So that's kind of it, really. It's a little bit shorter than usual. That's because I haven't been doing much knitting. Thank you very much for popping by. It's been great fun burbling on, as usual, even though some of it's not been quite such happy times. If you have anything you'd like to ask me, head over to the podcast questions thread and leave a question there. And that's for questions for sort of me to answer on the podcast, not just how do I do this kind of stitch. You can do that elsewhere. But if you want to know anything about me, my life as an actor or a knitter, or anything about me as a person, then please let me know, and I will do my best to answer them here on the podcast. I love reading through your questions. Head over and join the group. Say hi to everybody, say hi to me, and I will certainly say hi back. And until next time, while this podcast episode is now a finished object, the like of which I don't have any to show you, just remember, life is a work in progress. Just take it one stitch at a time. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I love you all. Bye-bye.